This is iUniverse Radio. iUniverse Radio is brought to you by iUniverse, the leading book marketing, editorial services, and supported self-publishing company. iUniverse Radio is produced by TogiNet Radio, on the web at TogiNet.com.
The title of the book, Fear, a Healthy Emotion If Well Managed. And the author is Ibeh Agbanyim. And Ibeh joins us now on iUniverse Radio. Hello, Ibeh.
Hello, Steve.
Great to have you with us. This is a very fascinating topic because everybody at one time or another experiences fear, and often, even in the least degree in life, sometimes it becomes just immobilizes us. But you say fear is a secret ingredient of life, and of course it can determine our next course of action. So before we get into more details about your view of fear, and as you say, a healthy emotion if well managed, tell us a little bit about your background, your professional background, and how this book came about.
Thank you, Steve. I have two backgrounds, actually. My first one is I've been with UPS as a senior logistics associate for the past 17 years. And I'm also an industrial psychology professional, which is what I have my degree in. Basically, what we do is we are more interested in human behavior in the workplace, which when we get involved, basically we translate a work environment into high performance, engaged, and productive environment. So that's my background.
Well, you make some very strong statements. I love this one. We cannot conquer what we cannot confront. So the key to dealing with fear, as you say, well managed, is to confront it.
That's correct. Actually, if I can add one more line there, the whole premise of the book, I define fear as an emotion that creates discomfort. It is what determines our next course of action, whether to react or respond to a situation. So basically, the way we view fear determines the result that we'll get. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Yes. So fear basically controls every action we make in some sort of another, in some way or another.
That's correct. Let me put it the other way around, Steve. Recent study shows that average brain processes about 12 to 60,000 thoughts on a daily basis. And 80% of those thoughts are negative. And 95% of them are repeated thoughts. So can you imagine if 80% of our thoughts are negative? That means we dwell in fear on a daily basis. And interestingly enough, comfort leads to tradition, which means when we get comfortable doing whatever we are doing, it becomes a habit. So if we have over the years trained our mind to view fear as destructive, basically it becomes our comfort zone. So here I am telling you that fear can also be constructive if well managed. So it's quite a thought-provoking topic or emotion to discuss.
Right. Well, it can work in our favor, and that's really turning that around, because most of us, obviously, we think of fear, and that kind of when you feel fear, you kind of feel frozen at times. You know, you just can't think, can't move. But you're just turning the whole thing on its head, so to speak. Right.
Actually, of all my studies, all my research I've done over the years, the great men and women that I've encountered, they share one thing in common: perseverance and boldness. That's including Nelson Mandela, who passed away a few months ago. Mm-hmm. He admitted that fear can be paralyzing. Mm-hmm. But it was the same fear that that compelled him to achieve greatness. You know.
So, what about the issue of violence? I mean, we live in a violent age. You know, there's a lot of violence all around us. It's on the news every day. I think in the back of our mind, sometimes we are in situations or in places where we can even, you know, be a little scared that something could happen.
Right. I think it goes back to that recorder in our brain about that 80% negative thoughts. Some of them are the ones that we make up based on previous experiences, not particularly what happened at that moment. So we are operating on that fear based on the recorded information we had, not so much about the one at hand, but going back to what I said about tradition, because we've already established in our minds that fear is negative. So when we see the unknown, it is very convenient for us to fear the unknown. So when you talk about violence, let me add one more thing there. Violence, indirectly, every single one of us contribute to it. How we do that is when we avoid each other, when we fear each other negatively or destructively, it provokes minds for people to start acting out of order. So violence, indirectly, every single one of us contribute to it. I don't know if that makes sense to you, Steve.
Yes, yes. Now, how does fear apply in the workplace?
Good. In the workplace, what pushes us to either fail or propel in whatever we do is fear. Number one can be fear of consequences. When we fear of being fired, for example, it will push you to show up at work on time. And now, on the other hand, managers, when they fear of losing their own jobs, they can easily falsify documents or falsify data to make their report look good. And as a result of that, they will put their employees out of work. So when you look around, fear is real, it's powerful. But if you flip it the other around, if you look at some pages in my book, you will see that fear. A good manager will fear for a company going down. And as a result of the company going down, he will get everybody involved, including the employees, to participate on what to do to save the dying company, as opposed to trying to save some people up and fire them so that he can keep his own job. So fear, in essence, can be good in a workplace or can be bad, depending on how the management or how the people involved manage such fear.
How would you describe your book? Is it a self-help book? Is it a book filled with inspiring stories? It's a combination of, how would you describe your book?
I think I will qualify it as all of the above. It's self-help, inspiring, and also research or evidence-based, which means you're not just reading my opinions. You'll be reading information that have already been researched. Some of them are from Harvard. Some of them are from West Virginia. Some of them are from MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So we're talking about a well-established data here to support my position.
I'm looking at your table of contents. Talk to me about why we fear to forgive some people, because I think we all know how empowering forgiveness is.
There's a study made by Dr. Candy. She said the most powerful tool that any human being will have is forgiveness. But somehow we fear that if we do forgive another person that offended us. Basically, we're signing over the check to them. But actually, reverse is the case. When you forgive anybody that offends you, it puts you in a position of power. I don't know if that makes sense to you, Steve.
Yes, yes. You also have a chapter about Jesus. It says Jesus feared is the heading on your chapter. What are you talking about there?
Well, when Jesus was in a human flesh, he feared. And some of the evidence that showed that Jesus feared was when he was on his way to Calvary, on his way to the cross. He made a profound statement when he said, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, which means, my God, why thou hast forsaken me? Now, when you use that word forsaken, means it's a sense of abandonment, and it's a sense of fear. And also, he said on another chapter where he said, let this cup pass over me, not my will, but your will be done. So there were splits of seconds where he was worried, or where he feared that his heavenly Father has abandoned him.
That's a great fear we all have. I know none of us like to be alone.
That's right.
That's a terrible feeling that we're having to deal with something all by ourselves. Even though sometimes we, like you've already pointed out, we need to stand up and confront our fear, maybe all by ourselves.
That's correct. There are other studies out there that suggest that American employers spend about $400 billion every year as a result of occupational-related stress. And in that, it includes a result of fear. When people fear, when they are being abused, you see employee turnover spike. You see employee disengagement. You see absenteeism. You see what we call presenteeism. Presenteeism is basically when they come to work, they don't produce. They just stay there. So fear has a very profound impact in whatever we do in life. Therefore, we have to find a way to manage it. That way it can work in our own favor. Steve?
And fear can lead to drug abuse.
That's right. That's right. There's a study also in my book that suggests that about 45% of African American males are high school dropouts. And one of their reasons why they refuse to complete their high school program is because they believe that even when they finish the program, their pay is just as good as another African American that does not graduate from high school, and that's wrong. I mean, that's not correct. But because of this destructive fear, it led them to settle. That is their own reality. Therefore, they will drop out of high school.
We've been listening to Ibeh Agbanyim, and he is the author of his book, Fear, A Healthy Emotion If Well Managed. Ibeh, tell us how to get your book. How do we order your book?
You can get it at Amazon.com or also BarnesandNoble.com or iUniverse.com.
Thank you so much, Ibeh, for being with us on iUniverse Radio.
Thank you so much, Steve.